Continuing part 2, the world of the names. Searching for the Nistar. God hiding his face is indeed for the purpose that we shall seek him. For seeking God is life. It is not the actual cause of life. We must not try and find the reason for one indication of life or another. We need not explain that at the exodus from Egypt, millions of people may have very well been involved. We have nothing to do with Jacob or Saul or Hezekiah's ultimate motives. All this would simply lead us to the fruitless task of finding causes, where God is Nistar. What we can do, however, is trying to find God in everything, stating how miraculous is the source, the structure, the rhythm, the greatness, the overwhelming, everywhere. For trying to find God is nothing but the path of the return, the path to the source of origin, the path of liberation. For that purpose does the neshama descend into a human being. The neshama desires only to go in quest of God, turn to God. It is only the physical appearance which desires to find reasons and causes, which will cut an especially fine figure at one's stage of development. Now from considerations of expediency, now from considerations romantic, sentimental, psychological, hygienic, mathematical, sociological, and so on. With this remarkable primordial source by one side, one suffers all the time from inferiority complexes, and one would fain be rid of them by dint of explaining everything, adapting oneself, pointing out that it is not quite so strange, for even science. Just imagine, science is concerned about it and has to admit that there is something in it, quite a lot for that matter. What a relief. But seeking God in the Nistar is finding the miraculous. The miraculous, therefore, is also to be found in the story of Esther. Although God is completely Nistar there, it is something like building life, building eternity, seeking God there, and in doing so, finding the miraculous. Let man act gratuitously. Let man seek God. One should not explain things, that is, conceitedness. One would thus make oneself into a deity, and the explanations are images in time, transient, in the course of evolution, and a later phase preposterous and dangerous to man. It is great to do everything as handed down from another world, doing it all gratuitously, and only seeking the miraculous in it, the pattern of the Nistar. The Concept Pur. The Concept Pur as destiny, as coincidence, gets a peculiar aspect in addition. If one studies more closely the Hebrew word, at least the word which occurs in the story of Esther, the word Pur is built up of the elements which also form the word for bull and cow, as also for fruit, fertility. The word Pharaoh is connected with it. It shows that our concept of coincidence is closely connected with what we know as fertility, development, growth. Coincidence pertains to the world of development of the physical, and it pertains to it so as to be called coincidence and not mystery. Nistar and Esther can only be rightly understood if one can detach oneself from the grip of development. If one does not suffer oneself to be caught up in the excitement, the intoxication, but if one allows the neshama to speak, if one allows the return, the seeking of God, the miracle to dominate. Pur in the story of Esther is therefore seen and used by Haman, the Amalekite, who is the expression of the force of development. To Haman, it is Pur. Haman calls it Pur. Esther is the Nistar. Haman merely sees development. That this development is governed by Pur, by coincidence, is what he disregards. The law of big numbers enables him to draw conclusions in accordance with development. Coincidence does no harm in the law of statistics. Exceptions will be choked by the bulk. Sometimes exceptions are a nuisance, but they liven up things. It will actually liven up things when these exceptions are eliminated, when they are completely ignored or killed. The force of development is altogether subjugated to intoxication. Haman treats coincidence as a man in the world of development should. To him, coincidence is part and parcel of growth. It comes to him. Whence does not bother him. He merely works with data. This is the essence of the concept Pur. It is in this way that development looks at things. It is in this way that it looks at events. It does not go into things deeply. It makes use of them. It has not even time to go into them. Moreover, for the world of development, there would be no purpose in going into things deeply. The place of action. The story of Esther is enacted in Persia Media. In Hebrew, it is called Puris Madai. This tale of the exile is characteristically enacted in a world of duality, for the exile is acquainted with the being placed in the paradox. The secret exists when there is this very contradistinction, this insoluble, incomprehensible contradistinction. The other great story of exile in the Torah is similarly enacted in a world of duality. Egypt is called Mitzrayim in the Bible. To begin with, the word in its Hebrewic ending am expresses duality. Comprised, the structure further implies that the word has to do with suffering and form. One might also put it like this. Mitzrayim means suffering on account of being form, which results from the fact that there is a duality. Indeed, the tale of creation itself is a story of duality. It is determined by the very beginning, the formation of the word, where the concept Beth, the two, initiates this manifestation, this creation. A creation which introduces itself in every aspect as a duality right from the start. A creation marked by heaven and earth, light and darkness, man and woman, tree of life and tree of the knowledge, and so on. Duality is the starting point of creation. It is the beginning of the exile of the Shekinah. The story of Esther with God hiding his face in that exile is accordingly enacted in that world of duality. In the very duality, Puris Madai, the tale of the exile comes to expression in the sign of Esther, of I shall hide myself. As a human being, one feels imprisoned in a world of duality. One is fixed between the opposites. The secret lurks in the fact of the opposites. The neshama is in exile and is yearning for coming home. It is in this way that man is imprisoned in Puris Madai, and he cannot imagine that there could ever be an ending of space-time. In the language of ancient lore, in the language which knows the standards of the absolute, a terrestrial eternity is expressed in the concept 400. Not the 400 as a concept of our arithmetic, but the 400 as a standard in the real, substantially. There, the 400 is the extreme that is expressible, conceivable, as a phenomenon in our world. One cannot think beyond the 400 any more than think beyond space-time. That is why to language, to the ability of expression, the 400 is the extreme sound, the last letter in the order of sequence. It is the letter Ta. And that is why the exile in Egypt in the world of duality lasts 400 years. That is why the land, the world, or rather the universe, is measured with the measure of the 400. The land is said to be 400 parsa in length and 400 parsa in width. One is imprisoned in the 400 because one is imprisoned in potential expression in matter. If therefore one takes the elements of duality, Puris Madai, in their absolute sense as a unity, one will see that added up, they make this 400. For it is incarceration in duality. It is incarceration in form, in potential expression in matter, in Persia and Media, that which in the principle of the exile, Egypt, is present as time, is expressed in the elements which constitute the word, in the building stones which determine the form. So to our world, Persia and Media constitute the concept of the eternal. For the exile, the book Esther is a reality up to the present day, to the furthermost to the now. That is why reading the story of Esther is an essential constituent in Jewish practice of life to the present day. It is the word from another world. which has become a reality in ours. It embodies Nistar, the secret of the exile, as we know and endure the exile now.